I really do think that green coffee is going to be closer on average to $5 a pound when we buy it.
Mm.
Um, we've lived in a sweet spot of, really good pricing, which was like, you could get a coffee for $2.90, or, you know, you could, kind of live in this happy $3 zone. I think those days are over. I know they're over.
Mm.
But I think sustainably moving forward, planning for pretty much, 75% increase is where we're looking at. And I'm okay with that. I think it's going to lead to some really hard decisions for a lot of us. I think other things, just from talking and hearing the beat on the street, is you're going to see a lot of specialty coffee companies unfortunately go out of business or get purchased by PE or by other specialty coffee companies.
Folks, following on from the success of Map It Forward's online mastermind groups in 2024, we'll be opening up 3 groups again in January 2025 for new participants. 2 of the groups, Sell More Coffee and Grow Your Coffee Business, will be offered again for people who already have businesses and want to expand their business in a supportive environment during these volatile times in the coffee industry. A new group called Start a Cafe or Roastery will be offered for the first time. This is for people who want to start a cafe or roastery in 2025 or are considering opening a coffee business one day in the future. Groups start the week commencing January 13th, and prices start at $175 per month for 3 months. These mastermind groups have been a game changer for participants in 2024. So whether you're a coffee roaster, producer, cafe owner, or any other kind of business owner in the coffee industry, or you're hoping to be one in the future, head to mapitforward.coffee/group coaching to secure your spot by paying for the first month in advance, or pay the full 3 months up front and get an 11% discount. Spots are limited, so head to our website or click the link in the description and sign up today. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is unfortunately the last episode of a fantastic 5-part series. We've been so lucky on the podcast in 2024 to have so many amazing conversations. And this is the second last series of the year. And I'm just thrilled and that we actually got to do this at like the best way I could have been spending this Saturday night. So thank you. In this episode of the series, we're talking about what does the next 10 years look like in coffee. As we said in the first episode of this series, 2024 feels like a line in the sand. So from this line in the sand moving forward, you as a leader, the CEO of Metropolis, do you take all the 10-year plans that you've got and the 5-year plans that you've got, and do you scrap them and say, oh, fuck, we have to start again? Or how do you approach it?
Yeah, so I try not to make plans, but we create essentially a vision, right? We call it a 10-year picture. And a 3-year vision, right? So, or maybe it's the opposite. I don't even know. But I think a few things that will come out of this will be that we are more discerning about projects that we take on, because we're going to understand that our return on a lot of those investments will be slower or less, right? And we're going to have much clearer eyes on that. And I hope everybody listening that runs a company will do the same, because I think those are the things that will keep us in business. I know I personally am going to start planning more for more expensive coffee and trying to find room on our P&L for that, because it's the right thing to do, but it's what I have to do. 31%, anywhere from 28 to 31% is what our green coffee cost was of our average wholesale price of coffee. And I think we're going to be way closer to 40 to 45% as a cost moving forward, until we can really make the price increase commensurate with the change. The market will only bear so much, so I'm not looking to put myself out of business. So I'm going to have to eat that for a while. We've put in some price increases, but our customers are also feeling the burn. So, we're splitting the difference, if you will, without them even knowing that. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I really do think that green coffee is going to be closer on average to $5 a pound when we buy it. Um, we've lived in a sweet spot of, really good pricing, which was like, you could get a coffee for $2.90, or, you know, you could, kind of live in this happy $3 zone. I think those days are over. I know they're over. But I think sustainably moving forward, planning for pretty much, 75% increase is where we're looking at. And I'm okay with that. I think it's going to lead to some really hard decisions for a lot of us. I think other things, just from talking and hearing the beat on the street, is you're going to see a lot of specialty coffee companies unfortunately go out of business or get purchased by PE or by other specialty coffee companies. I know that my friends over at Fairwave have had a really good time of buying up coffee companies and doing a lot with them, and having better purchasing power. I really like what they do, and I think we're going to see more of that. You're going to see more partnerships like Caldi's Coffee has made throughout the Midwest, which is also lots of different labels, maybe under one group. And I do think that that's likely to happen. I also think that companies maybe half the size of Metropolis, not necessarily micro roasters, but smaller roasters, maybe roasting 500,000 pounds a year or a little under, are probably going to really struggle. But what it might do is, we might have more at the store level roasting then, because, they can really charge a premium for those drinks and they have very low overhead. So you might see more of those types of things pop out of this. So yeah, that's kind of where I see the market going, at least here. I also, though, you see larger companies like Starbucks starting to really feel the burn too. And, they just talked about moving over to speculation. I think that will have a trickle down effect for sure, for all of us. I really don't, I listened to your episodes with Carly and Judith. It was amazing. I completely over my head. Like, I actually had calls. We had calls with both of them after, and I was just like, slow down. Okay. What is, like, I'm like Googling words as Judy's saying them during the call,
Folks, I get off those conversations and I wish I drank alcohol. And I live in a place where I can't smoke a joint. So I get off those series and I'm like, my brain is crazy. Breaking. Yeah, man.
We've never had to know that stuff. And I think we're going to get better at it, or we're going to go out of business. Yeah. And I know, like, Tony was like the first ones, like, saying we need to learn about all this stuff so that we're prepared, and we need to, develop better partnerships with our best vendors, and we need to really, and I think that those of us that are able to outsmart the fox, make the room on the P&L, and reset the expectations instead of lamenting where we were, are going to come out ahead.
And I want to pay tribute to Carly here. Carly said that the market come early December, she said about 90 days from now, which would be early December, you're going to see a sell-off. And exactly on time, that's what happened. And I sent her a message and I said, hey, Miss Wizard, this is wild. You timed it perfectly. And wild. And then she said, once the sell-off happens, you'll see, she expects that the prices will go up again. Yeah. And that is exactly what's happened. And we hit an even higher high than before the sell-off. Yeah. So this is, you raised something that's really interesting there that I've been thinking about all year, which is I'm grateful for this podcast because it meant I'm less dumb than I used to be about coffee. I'm certainly not smart about it in the sense that there's so much left to learn. But I do remember the fact that when I started in coffee, and probably the first 10 years, 15 years of my career, we didn't have to understand any of this stuff.
You didn't have to.
I'm not sure that you're going to get away with it.
Yeah, you're not going to. And that's fine, though. It's okay to say, I don't know
Yeah.
I don't have a degree in finance. I don't know the difference between a future and a whatever. That's really where, I mean, I have been trying in earnest to teach myself this stuff because I run a coffee company and it's really fucking hard.
Yeah.
I don't think this way. And thank God there are people that are really good at it,
Mm.
but I think you're right. And that's okay. Like I'm excited to learn something new. And I hope that everybody else that wants to stay in business also loves education because we're getting one by fire.
You're going to have to. Tell me about the consumer. What happens to the consumer over the next 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about in Dubai, but here we're really feeling the inflation burn.
Oh, we are too, trust me. A coffee costs
Yeah.
somewhere between $9 and $12
Yeah,
here
it's
in
really
Dubai.
bad. In big cities, it's even worse. I mean, we're also taxed up the nose,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean they're already comfortable with it here. I feel like more in terms of like people expect to spend a lot of money on a drink or a coffee or on dinner. But it's just going to get worse. Again, like it's going to have to be passed through. My hope is that, in places like Chicago, they continue to hold a higher minimum wage. Cost of living, though, is, either there's going to be more of a mass exodus from the cities or there's going to be some kind of moment of reality that I hope some legislation can pass where, especially in, like where I am, where, we continue to raise the bar for people's living. And I know Metropolis will continue to do its part with that too, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. It's already bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big Aldi fan. I shop at Aldi, even though I mean, I no matter what, I always will. And groceries at one point they went so high, and they've kind of come back down a little bit now. But it's a new normal that we all embrace.
Mm-hmm.
Small town, big town doesn't matter. So it's just going to be one of those things. And people aren't going to stop drinking coffee.
We're talking about an interesting thing at Aldi. I'm hearing in Australia that there are a lot of cafes that are now buying their coffee from Aldi because
it's so cheap.
Well, they've figured out who's roasting for them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're happy with who's roasting for them. So they're buying, I'd spoken to a couple of people who had said, we've just started buying our coffee from Aldi. I'm like, what do you mean you're buying your coffee from Aldi? They're like, yeah, it sucks to admit it, but we're buying our coffee from Aldi and we're just not telling anyone that it's Aldi coffee, and the customers aren't complaining.
Wow. That's remarkable.
And it is really interesting to see that this is the way that people are adapting, because I feel like even though that's your kind of short-term hack, Aldi's going to have to change in a minute as well. Because and this leans into these myth kind of things, right? Like as though Aldi somehow gets this magical, concession because they're Aldi to pay what we were all paying a year ago for coffee and not what we're paying now for coffee. They may have locked in contracts ahead of time, but
not it'll come out in the wash eventually. Yeah, I mean, here you can buy a pound of Aldi coffee for $4. I mean, I can't buy a pound of green coffee for $4 right now. I mean,
so seriously, how do you compete?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to come out in the wash eventually, and again, you deal with these large suppliers that think that their volume is going to be the end all be all for you, so you're going to give them whatever they want, and you literally will not be able to. I can't negotiate under my cost. So I think that people are going to have to be more comfortable, specifically, large deals where they thought that they could get the significant volume discount. It's just not going to happen. Nobody's going to be able to offer them,
And I need to say something here to the small roasters, because what this will mean is when the bigger companies are saying no, they're going to come to the smaller companies and they're going to say to them, are you interested?
Yeah.
Walk away. Because this is what the fuck got us into this situation in the first place. It was companies that thought that it was a good thing that they would be able to supply Costco or supply the supermarket chains. And don't worry, this is coming out of our marketing budget.
Mm-hmm.
And here's
There's a lot of that going around.
Please, folks, remember that if you are the person who's supplying a supermarket and you're framing it from the perspective of, well, we'll just put it in a couple of stores and we will sell it cheaper and we will just absorb the loss. Well, they then turn that into 35 stores. What the fuck are you going to do then?
Yeah, and they're going to want free slotting and promos every quarter, and
Pallets
it's going to
of
all
free
come
coffee.
off their invoices. Yeah. No free coffee. I think that's the way it's going to go. I mean, honestly.
So is this a paradigm shift, do you think? Is this coffee's beer moment?
Yeah, for sure. We're there. I think it might play out a little bit slower. I think I know what you're kind of getting at with that. I do. I think this is going to change a lot of things because, we did have a little wiggle room before. We had some norms, if you will, that we could hold to. And I don't think we're going to be able to hold to those same norms anymore. So they're going to have to shift. And, maybe, again, as I said, oh, fuck, but maybe it's time. And yeah, and the whole market's going to be affected. I mean, if Starbucks, which buys 3% of the world's coffee, is moving its purchasing model, that means everybody's going to have to, and we all will, and it's going to impact how every person at every level buys, including Metropolis. So,
and the beer reference that I made there, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sure it happened. I know it happened in San Diego. Maybe it didn't happen in other places in the US, but it definitely happened all over Australia. So you could buy a beer in a pub or at the store for a couple of dollars. A beer now costs about $15 in Australia.
Yeah.
So
but also part of that, Lee, is that, here, the big guys bought up a ton of the micro breweries, the craft. Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen.
And then the little guys are going out of business, like ones that you thought would never go out of business or filing for bankruptcy in the beer industry.
Yeah.
And we know that craft coffee often follows on the heels of craft beer. So at a much lower margin and dollar amount.
Correct. Well, and this is what I'm concerned about, is the flow-on effect of that affects it gets its claws into every part of the supply chain. So when it's fantastic that the prices are where they are, and it's fantastic that coffee producers who have coffee are going to have this access, right? If they have coffee. The problem is, as we see this 2025 play out, how it plays out, if we see businesses go out of business and no consolidation happen, that presents one set of problems.
Right.
If we see small businesses being bought for pennies on the dollar and being consolidated into bigger businesses, now we've got a different set of problems that are equally as shitty, because it gives the bigger companies more buying power.
Right.
And I'm not sure we want any of those scenarios. We definitely want the businesses that are behaving very badly, we want them to go out of business. However, I don't know that we need that many businesses to go out of business. We need a desaturation in our industry.
Well, how do you feel, though, about private equity buying up, shares of these kind of medium-sized coffee companies? How do you think that's going to play out? Non-coffee people investing cash into coffee businesses.
Well, I'm a woman that comes from the music industry. And I can tell you that when bankers are running record labels and there's no artists that sit on the boards of those record labels, it's not good for anybody. Because the artists, bad things happen. And you know that, being a musician. This is the kind of thing that if you don't have balance, private equity is great if it works for the reason that it's meant to be there. But it really does.
Right.
People will tell you that speculators are fantastic for the futures market because they provide liquidity. What the fuck does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're okay with them providing the liquidity, except it massively sways the C market, which
Yeah.
seems to be doing a lot of damage. Either
Yeah, for
way.
sure. There's a false, yeah, definitely provides a false narrative.
So if private equity can come in, and I've been saying this for years, if private equity came in and actually helped small businesses and medium-sized businesses get better at doing business,
Mm-hmm.
that would be amazing. But that's not what they're doing.
That's
They're
not what they
coming
do.
in and they're exploiting them for whatever they need rather
Mm-hmm.
than conspiring to each other's success. And that's how we've ended up in this fucked up situation.
Yeah. Yeah. This business model is just so different. And I think, there needs to be more business minded people working in specialty coffee. And those types of minds will, protect the whole industry. Is
Yeah.
my hope. I am not a coffee person. There's people that come into the coffee industry in many different ways. They start as a barista and they fall in love with it, whatever. I didn't. I'm way more on the business side.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk to coffee people, I always tell them I'm different. Like I want to know what you know. Teach me, please.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm on this side of the industry because this is what I do, right?
Mm.
And I'm seeing, fortunately, I'm seeing more and more of that. Like there's more stuff going up and around, more education happening. But again, I think we're in this place where there's going to be, another level with this, and we're going to need good finance people in here that understand how this works, understand how the market works, and then also can potentially ward off, bad PE situations for companies that they love or that they work with, so we can, get out of this, and hopefully, within the next couple of years, the whole thing will be lifted, and we'll kind of look back at this and go, oh, we were so worried, but it ended up being okay. But that's maybe just me being so positive.
Well, I mean, positive or not, I do hope it ends up being
Yeah.
that. I hope that whatever it is that we're in the beginnings of experiencing, I hope that we are going to end up where we need to end up.
Mhm.
So, as we wrap up this series, I just want to really thank you because this has been an exceptional conversation. It has been one of those conversations that I know that people are going to listen to and they're going to say, you know what, I think I want to be one of those people, because we hear that a lot. We hear people say, I listen to your podcast a lot and I decided to go and get my MBA, or I decided to go and study accounting, or I decided to study those things because I heard this person or that person, and I want to be better in the coffee industry, so I'm going to get educated. This will be one of those series. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for being brave enough to be vulnerable on this podcast and talk about the things that you've been talking about, and come back.
I would love to come back. Thank you so much for having me. I'm no expert on the market, but I'm really excited to learn, and I'm going to be, an avid listener, and, just keep the
Thank
good
you.
stuff coming out.
Thank you.
Please.
It will be my pleasure. Tell everybody how they can find Metropolis Coffee.
Yeah, you can go to our website. We're actually making some changes to it right now, just for our wholesale and whatnot. But it's www.metropoliscoffee.com. You can't miss us.
Okay, perfect. We will include links to the website and to the socials, as well as to your LinkedIn, because I want everybody to go and read that post if they can. Now, lady, will you do us the great honor of signing us off for this series, please?
Oh, I'm so happy to get to do this. Peace, love, and peanut butter.
Have an amazing rest of your day, everyone. Bye. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, friends. Please don't forget to show us some love by subscribing, liking, commenting, and most of all, sharing this podcast with your friends. Check the show notes for links, including our sponsors and our Patreon, and stay tuned for more great conversations on the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward.